Welcome to Channel's Business Globe with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. Coming up on today's show, in London, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is scrambling to regain control after a forced U-turn on local elections handed fresh momentum to Reform UK and reignited criticism across Westminster, with Labour MPs rattled, councils racing to organise late-stage ballots, and Nigel Farage claiming victory. Questions are growing over leadership credibility and electoral fallout ahead of May. I'll be unpacking what this means for Westminster and the wider political landscape with our Downing Street correspondent Simon Pusey. And global leaders gathered in Cape Town this past weekend for talks on governance, peace and development, with Africa firmly in focus. Nigeria was among the participating countries using the platform to push its reform agenda and deepen international partnerships. I'll be sharing my interview with Mohammed Idris, Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation, who was representing President Bola Tinubu at the event. Then later I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office after police detained the King's brother at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Officers arrived shortly after 8 a.m, arresting the 66-year-old before conducting searches at his new home on the estate. Thames Valley Police confirmed searches would also continue at Royal Lodge in Berkshire, his former residence. He was later photographed leaving Aylsham Police Station after being interviewed by detectives and was released under investigation. The arrest follows a full inquiry into allegations that Andrew leaked confidential government information to the late financier Jeffrey Epstein during his time as UK trade envoy. Emails contained within material released by the US Department of Justice appear to show Andrew forwarding official reports from trips to Singapore, Hong Kong and Vietnam in 2010 and 2011. The offence of misconduct in public office carries a potential life sentence. In a statement issued by Buckingham Palace, King Charles III said he had learned of the arrest with the deepest concern, adding that the law must take its course and pledging full cooperation with authorities. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said that nobody is above the law, while US President Donald Trump described the development as very sad for the royal family. Andrew, who is eighth in line to the throne, has denied wrongdoing. The arrest marks the most serious crisis for the monarchy in decades, raising renewed questions about accountability and institutional oversight as investigations into material linked to Epstein continue across multiple UK police forces. Elsewhere, Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform UK's first shadow cabinet, moving to position his party as a government in waiting ahead of May's local elections and following Labour's U-turn on council polls. At a Westminster press conference, Farage named former Conservative Minister Robert Jenrick as Chancellor in waiting, with party policy chief Zia Yusuf taking charge of Home Affairs. Deputy Leader Richard Tice was given a combined business, trade and energy brief, while ex-Home Secretary Suella Braverman was appointed Shadow Education Secretary with responsibility for equalities. Farage said the appointments were designed to counter criticism that Reform lacks governing experience, with Tory defectors brought in to bolster credibility as the party prepares to field hundreds of candidates in May. The move comes as Reform claims momentum following its legal challenge that forced Prime Minister Keir Starmer to reinstate delayed local elections, a reversal Farage described as a victory for democracy. Farage also ruled out any electoral pact with the Conservatives, warning that his party would not repeat what he called the Tory psychodrama, while insisting Reform is now the real opposition. With internal polling showing experience remains a hurdle for voters, Farage said attention will now shift to building out policy and a full manifesto, as Reform looks to convert political disruption into electoral gains.
The government have given in, admitted what they did in trying to cancel elections, and in some cases with the connivance of the Conservative Party for a second year in a row, and now 4.6 million voters that would have been denied the right to vote, despite still paying their council tax, will get the right to vote on the 7th of May. And if you think about it, this was the Labour Party, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in Cheltenham trying to deny people the vote. And we're the party that stands up for democracy, accountability, and I view yesterday as being a really, really big win. A big win, not just for us, but a big win for democracy, something that those that went before us actually fought to defend the very principle of. So this morning, we're quite proud of ourselves. Now, at the time of the general election, which seems a long time ago, I said that what we would do, we would establish a toehold in Parliament in that short campaign, and we would then move on to become the opposition party in this country to the Labour government. And whilst it may be true that the Conservative Party have more MPs in Westminster than we do, although our numbers are growing quite steadily, there is no question, given that we've now led for the last 200 opinion polls in a row, given that our average lead is between 9 and 10%, that in the country we are the voice of opposition to this government. And so it's time for the party to take the next step. Too often, the criticism over the last 20 months has been that we're a one-man band, to which I generally respond by saying, well, it's better than being a no-man band. But the time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today.
The development comes against a backdrop of growing pressure on Prime Minister Keir Starmer after a forced U-turn on local elections reinstated polls across 30 English councils following a legal challenge from Reform UK. Sir Keir chaired Cabinet and moved quickly to steady his government after ministers conceded the delay plan would likely fail in court. The reversal has rattled Labour MPs and handed fresh momentum to Reform leader Nigel Farage, who framed the climb down as a victory for democracy. Opposition figures, including Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, branded the episode predictable chaos, as Labour insiders warn the decision risks deepening voter backlash ahead of the local elections. The government is now racing to fund late-stage ballots, cover Reform's legal costs and reassure councils as questions grow over political competence, leadership credibility and electoral fallout. Well, to unpack what this means for Westminster and the wider political landscape, I was earlier joined by our Downing Street correspondent Simon Pusey.
Simon, it just appears so difficult for Sir Keir Starmer to get any positive press at the moment. You'd think he'd want to stay under the radar after the whole Epstein-Mandelson scandal, but now he's on a U-turn on local elections, not looking good, played right into the hands of Nigel Farage and Reform UK.
Yeah, I think there may have been some court pressure from Reform to bring about this change.
Yeah.
There was they were complaining a lot in media and on TV about democracy being quashed and Sir Keir is running scared. Why aren't we having elections? I think a lot of it was the local councils themselves don't have the money or don't have much money to hold these elections, and so they actually asked central government if they could delay them. And now they're going to have to play catch up because this is very close to that date to hold those elections. But you're right, other things, unemployment is up for the first time, the highest in 5 years. Other announcements coming, and you've got Reform who are naming their shadow cabinet, if you'd like. So
big beasts.
Robert Jenrick, former Conservative, Suella Braverman, former Conservative, they've got positions. Richard Tice has been named as Energy Minister or in waiting. So exactly, it looks like they're sort of the party of the sort of adult party there, whereas the Labour Party are still playing the blame game over Mandelson, and seem to be all at sea. So I think you're right, it's hard for the Prime Minister to catch a break at the moment. The best he seems to be able to do is to go abroad and to be diplomatic on the world stage. That seems to be his sort of safe space.
Charity starts at home, Simon.
Very good point. Exactly. So it's hard to see, but we've got this break now coming up of a week or two. But it's hard to see how he's going to catch
For our
on.
viewers back home, can you put into context the importance of local elections? Why is it so symbolic in the political calendar in Britain?
I guess guess it's a bit like the midterms in the US, where Sir Keir's not going to be out of a job if they lose every single seat, but it is a good bellwether of what could happen in the main elections. And you can talk about pollsters all you like, but it's who will actually go out and vote. And local elections and national elections slightly different in that sense, but it is kind of like a good temperature of the mood music around of who might get elected in the main elections, and it could therefore change like big policy changes for the government if they see that they're going to be they lose big in the local elections, then they're going to have to make some changes. So
what do the polls suggest?
Well, the polls suggest obviously that Reform are way ahead of than any other party, but we have an interesting first past the post electoral system here that doesn't necessarily translate from the polls into the election. So but it'd be also interesting to see how the Greens do. They've picked up a lot of steam in the polls. It'll be interesting to see if they can turn that into votes.
Kemi Badenoch, of course, because she has done pretty well over the past
she's done
couple
well
weeks.
with the Mandelson stuff and holding the government to account. I think most critics think that they've been a good opposition in the last few weeks, and she's been doing pretty well. And maybe being free of people like Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick has really helped her a little bit, sort of a weight off her shoulders. She likes to use the phrase, he's someone else's problem now. And so, it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I don't think the Conservatives or Labour will be looking forward to these local elections at all.
Yes, we'll have to wait and see. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
And as the First Minister has just said, this is a really historic day. This is an incredible vision. Transport for Wales setting out generational change, comprehensive change, absolutely supported and endorsed by a Labour government in Westminster. And that's the power of two Labour governments working together. This project has been long in the making. Today we are delivering it, as I say, endorsed and supported. And I'm really pleased to do that as a government. I'm really pleased to do it as an individual, because I know who I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for all the people that need decent transport to get to work, to get to school, to get to education, to see their friends, their relatives, their family, to go to hospitals and the like. All of those people are the people we're fighting for. So yes, this is about rolling stock. Yes, it's about where the lines will be. But it's absolutely about the people all across Wales who will now have the opportunity of decent transport that they haven't had for so long. And what a change that is, because here's a comprehensive plan for the whole of Wales that is going to be delivered. And in the past, under the last government, what we had? We had announcements that were made and then unmade. We had the electrification from Cardiff to Swansea. Good idea by the last government, and then they cancelled it. This is about delivering differently, delivering on a comprehensive package. And if you want to see how comprehensive it is, there is a brochure that sets all this out. Go to page 18 and you'll see a map of Wales, and it shows you exactly where all the connections are going to be. So this is a fantastic opportunity, a fantastic investment. It is a big investment. It's an investment in transport, but it's an investment in people as well, because we must have in our mind's eye all the people that will want and deserve decent transport, because transport is a great enabler. There's so much you can do with transport in terms of building the economy, making sure people are better off. But these big decisions can only be made if you've got a government that has stabilised the economy. And that's why stabilising the economy has been our number one concern as a Labour government. And we've got real evidence now that the plan is working. So interest rates have come down 6 times. That means that mortgages are coming down. And for all of you who are on a mortgage, you know what a big outgoing that is, month on month. So interest rates coming down, huge help to individuals, to families, to all people who've got a mortgage, big help to businesses as well. And you may have seen this morning that inflation has come down again, now to 3%, and it's scheduled to come down further. That will affect all of you, because that's not just a statistic, that is how much it costs to do things when you're in the supermarket.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, global leaders gathered in Cape Town this past weekend for talks on governance, peace and development, with Africa firmly in focus. Nigeria was among the participating countries using the platform to push its reform agenda and deepen international partnerships. I'll be sharing my interview with Mohammed Idris, Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation, who was representing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the event. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from just outside the Palace of Westminster in central London, where global power, policy and markets intersect. Shortly, I'll be sharing highlights from last weekend's GCPR conference in Cape Town. But until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. In China, officials are hoping a Lunar New Year spending surge will lift domestic demand. Authorities expect a record 9.5 billion passenger journeys during the Spring Festival, backed by longer holidays and consumer vouchers, as Beijing tries to unlock household spending. French prosecutors have opened investigations into infant formula makers, including Nestlé and Danone, after recalls across more than 60 countries linked to possible contamination. The probe centres on products suspected of containing cereulide, a toxin that can cause severe illness. Authorities are also reviewing reports of baby deaths, though no causal link has yet been established. Both companies are due to report earnings this week, with investors watching closely for the financial impact. Cuba has suspended its flagship cigar festival in Havana amid a deepening energy crisis. Organisers postponed the event as fuel shortages worsen following a US oil blockade. Premium cigars remain one of Cuba's most important exports, while the United Nations warns the country risks humanitarian collapse if oil supplies are not restored. Now to my final topic. Global leaders were meeting in Cape Town last weekend for the Global Council for Political Renewal Conference, as governments grapple with rising geopolitical risk, governance challenges and development pressures. The two-day meeting brought together heads of state, ministers and policymakers to focus on ethics in politics, peace building and economic development, with Africa at the centre of the agenda. Nigeria took part as it seeks to reinforce its reform narrative, position governance as a driver of growth and deepen diplomatic and development partnerships at a time of heightened global uncertainty.
Nigeria is, of course, a leader on the African continent and also a leader in democracies around the world. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu thought it important that we come here to talk about democracy in Nigeria, to talk about the reforms that Nigerian government has instituted and all the agendas of Mr. President towards attaining sustainability and development in our dear country. And that's why we are here today. And we're happy to be in the midst of other countries around Africa, to share ideas on global peace, on global prosperity and the journey towards democratization for all African nations. And I think that it's been a very worthwhile experience for Nigeria to be. We need to share our experiences with other African countries, learn from them what they've done right, learn from them the journey towards democratization. As we have learned here, democracy is not just a single word. It also undergoing democratization itself. So Nigeria is learning from other peers around the world, especially around other participants from Africa, from Asia, from all parts of the world. And this, we hope, these lessons will benefit Nigeria towards ensuring that democracy is indeed further strengthened in our country. The message we are bringing is that message of hope, message of friendship, also telling the world that Nigeria is indeed transforming, and Nigeria is indeed going through reform, critical reform that is repositioning it. And if you look at what we have seen in the last 1 year, almost all the rating agencies in the world are giving a pass mark to Nigeria. All the rating agencies of the world are saying that Nigeria is indeed the destination to be. Only a week ago, the president of the World Bank was in Nigeria, giving Nigeria a pass mark in its economic reform. The IMF also did something. So everyone, indeed, only in the last quarter of last year, the Financial Action Task Force delisted Nigeria from the so-called grey list. These are all messages indicating that Nigeria is indeed on the march, sustainable march towards prosperity for its people. Of course, we've just heard from the Minister of Finance of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that our foreign reserve has grown to about $49 billion. Headline inflation is down. Food inflation is also down. Our GDP is on the rise. So Nigeria is indeed turning the corner towards prosperity that Mr. President has promised. We think that the international community can do better about its characterization of Nigeria. We've seen what has happened, come out from America, from the United States, about the characterization of Nigeria as a country that does not allow religious freedom. But of course, we have also seen that the American government has come to Nigeria. They've listened to the Nigerian authorities. They've learned from us, and I think that they're having a change of heart gradually. We believe that going forward, Nigeria is going to be better understood, and we will also ensure that the international community understands us better so that they can do more business with us, they can have better handshake with us for the peace and prosperity that all of us require for development to take place. What we expect that we will have a country that is peaceful, a country that is further united, a country that is strengthened economically, a country that is undergoing reform for peace and prosperity. And we are seeing that all over the world, Nigeria is now taking its center stage. Everyone is trying to come to Nigeria. There's so much to do in Nigeria. Investment opportunities are there. The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council is being put in place to ensure that all those that are coming to invest in our country will do so with ease. Foreign direct investment, of course, is happening in the health sector, in the creatives, in many sectors. So we believe and we do hope that Nigeria is indeed going to get better going forward. You see, the social media is really a very big phenomenon, and the issue of fake news and disinformation and misinformation is really not just a Nigerian phenomenon. It is something that has disturbed the entire world. And so all countries are, devising its own means and strategies of ensuring that Nigeria is indeed, the social media is indeed cleaned better so that it can be served for peace, for prosperity, for development, rather than for destruction. And in our own case, in Nigeria, we've just won the hosting right of the Media and Information Literacy Institute, a Category 2 UNESCO institute to be hosted in Nigeria. This part of our modest contribution to train people, to enlighten them, to discern what is good and what is bad for information management, especially in digital media space. So we believe that as we go forward, we will continue to look at this social media and bring about ways and means of ensuring that it is used better for progress and for development rather than for destruction.
Effort to make this conference possible.
We had intense dialogue with international law prevailed over domestic law.
Well, this actually, it's the fourth annual conference of the Global Council for Political Renewal. This, I would call it a noble endeavor, started in something like 5 years ago when a number of different politicians, university professors, and civil society leaders across the world thought that it was important to get together to build a platform for sharing some of the strategies and the main issues that we have to address in order to face such a difficult future, a future where, actually even a present situation where trust in politics is decreasing, but the need of good governance is ever more important. And since then, the first time we met in London, then in Washington, and then last year in Brussels, and this year it was important to be in such an important soil like that of South Africa and that of Africa. This year we focus especially on human development. And really, of course, people often speak about growth, but they mean economic growth or environmental. And if this growth is not sustained by human development, by, of course, education and research, then it can have very, very negative externalities. Only if people are aware of what it means to have a sustainable, to what it means to have a just and equitable development, because development is either for all or it's not a development. And so that's why we were very pleased to have the minister from Nigeria that addressed especially the themes of education, and he told us about the important results that they have achieved as far as participation, offering the opportunity of higher education to a larger numbers of students.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.